Welcome to this edition of Ethical Sustainable Investment News and Analysis to Profit By. I'm Ron Robbins, an ethical investing pioneer for over 40 years, quoted in the Wall Street Journal, Market Watch, the Globe and Mail, and numerous other media, and founder of the highly respected global ethical sustainable investing information website, Investing for the Soul. And please listen to my disclaimer statement at the end of this podcast. Now enjoy this podcast. Hello, Ron Robbins here. Welcome to podcast episode 29 for April 10, 2020, titled ESG Funds, Stocks, Opportunities in Downturn, presented by Investing for the Soul. Investingforthesoul.com is your site for vital global ethical and sustainable investing news, commentary, information, and resources. Remember that you can find a full transcript, links to content including stock symbols, and bonus material at this episode's podcast page located at investingforthesoul.com/podcasts, and Google any terms that are unfamiliar to you. Now, with the recent market turnaround, many investors are feeling a sense of relief and thinking beyond the COVID-19 turmoil. With that in mind, the analysts' research I'm reporting to you now might be of interest to you. So, let's start with the first research comment that illustrates again how well ESG ETFs have done compared to the overall market. This comment is titled ESG ETFs Appear Unscathed by the Coronavirus Carnage by Zacks analyst Sanghamitra Saha. She writes that Wall Street just recorded the worst quarter since the fourth quarter of 2008, but ESG ETFs appeared somewhat resilient to the acute sell-offs. End quote. Ms. Saha cites the following ESG ETFs as having gained significant assets during the sell-off. They are Global X Conscious Companies ETF, quoting her, its top holdings are Regeneron, Clorox, Biogen, Newmont, Netflix, and Amazon. End quote. Next is SP Funds S&P 500 Sharia Industry Exclusions ETF. Again quoting her, the underlying S&P 500 Sharia Industry Exclusions Index comprises the constituents of the S&P 500 Sharia Index other than those from the following sub-industries: aerospace and defense, financial exchanges and data, and data processing and outsourced services. End quote. Finally, the Nuveen ESG Mid-Cap Growth ETF, again quoting her, she says that it uses a rules-based methodology that provides investment exposure that generally replicates that of mid-cap growth benchmarks through a portfolio of securities that adhere to predetermined ESG controversial business involvement and low carbon screen criteria. End quote. Now I post for those ethical and sustainable investors wishing to get back into the markets with individual stocks. Ian Jenkins has written an article titled 6 Stocks Cashing In on the $30 trillion Impact Investing Trend, and it appears on the oilprice.com site. Here are his 6 picks. Now I'm just going to name the company and then follow it with a short quote by Mr. Jenkins on that company. Alphabet is a shining star in the tech world. Despite being one of the largest companies on the planet, in many ways it has lived up to its original "don't be evil" slogan. Face Drive Inc. For the first time in ride-sharing history, Face Drive is giving customers a choice to be more environmentally conscious. That's because it's utilizing new technology to calculate estimated CO2 emissions for each ride and allocating a portion of the proceeds accordingly to local organizations to help offset those emissions. Apple Inc. Not only have they decreased their average product's energy use by 70%, they've reduced their total carbon footprint by more than 35% in just a few short years. Microsoft Inc. is pushing so hard that it is aiming to be carbon negative by 2030. That's a huge pledge. And if anyone can do it, it's Microsoft. Next Era Energy, the world's leading producer of wind and solar energy. By 2025, the company aims to reduce their own emissions by 67% while doubling their electricity production from a 2005 benchmark. Lastly, Total, one of the world's largest oil and gas companies. Through its subsidiaries and new investments, Total is making major waves in the green revolution. End quotes. Do you favor tech stocks like most ethical and sustainable investors? Then you might want to see the recommendations of Billy Duberstein. His article is titled 3 Top Artificial Intelligence Stocks to Buy in April and appeared on the Motley Fool site. Here are the stocks he recommends, with each followed by a quote from him. Lam Research makes the machines that allow chip makers to produce smaller, more powerful chips. Autorix. Its main product is an end-to-end comprehensive software suite which allows both data scientists and non-data scientists to work together building and deploying machine learning algorithms. Micron Technology. Micron's product portfolio will be essential to future artificial intelligence applications, which will require lots and lots of DRAM memory and NAND flash storage. In addition to these products, Micron is also one of only 2 companies to have 3D X-Point, a new kind of non-volatile memory that is faster than NAND, though also more expensive. Micron is the only company to have all 3 technologies. End quote. It appears that the next big U.S. fiscal stimulus plan may involve huge spending on infrastructure. Due to this, many investors are looking for companies engaged in that sector to buy into. In her post on the Motley Fool site, Neha Shamaria writes about 3 top infrastructure stocks to watch in April. They are, and again followed by a quote from her on each company. Nucor. Nucor is North America's largest manufacturer and supplier of critical infrastructure steel and steel products. Vulcan Materials. Vulcan is the nation's largest manufacturer of construction aggregates, primarily crushed stone, gravel, and sand, as well as a major producer of asphalt and concrete. Caterpillar. If infrastructure spending picks up, Caterpillar should be a leading indicator as the world's largest construction and mining equipment manufacturer. End quotes. Ms. Shamaria has also written a post titled 3 Top Renewable Energy Stocks to Buy in April, also on the Motley Fool site. So, following the same format as previously, I'll say the company followed by a quote from her. Next Era Energy Partners. Next Era Energy Partners was formed in 2014 when Next Era Energy spun off its solar and wind energy projects to form an exclusive clean energy-focused limited partnership. Brookfield Renewable Partners. One of the best diversified renewable energy stocks you can find. While Next Era Energy Partners is focused on wind and solar, Brookfield Renewable specializes in hydropower, or the generation of electricity from water streams. TPI Composites, the world's largest independent composite wind blade manufacturer. End quotes. With this downturn, many investors are finding that dividends they'd become used to from stocks are being cut or even eliminated. Thus, those looking for dividends to provide income has become a real concern. Now, this might be helpful to you in that regard. BNK Invest has published an article titled First Energy, a top socially responsible dividend stock with 3.9% yield. They write that First Energy Corp has been named a top socially responsible dividend stock by Dividend Channel, signifying a stock with above average dividend rank statistics, including a strong 3.9% yield, as well as being recognized by prominent asset managers as being a socially responsible investment through analysis of social and environmental criteria. End quote. Tom Leedon of ETF Trends is making the case for green bonds at this juncture. In a post titled, Going Green with Bonds is a Winning Idea, he recommends the Van Eck Vectors Green Bond ETF. He writes that the Van Eck Vectors Green Bond ETF tracks the S&P Green Bond Select Index, which is comprised of labeled green bonds that are issued to finance environmentally friendly projects, and includes bonds issued by the supranational, government, and corporate issuers globally in multiple currencies, according to Van Eck. End quote. Here's another interesting item from his article. Mr. Linden quotes Thomas Wacker, head of credit at UBS Global Wealth, and reported in Bloomberg Reports as saying that, quote, sustainable bonds are a defensive opportunity that credit investors should favor over non-green investment-grade corporate notes, end quote. Well, these are my top news stories and tips for ethical and sustainable investors over the past 2 weeks. And to get all the links, stocks, symbols, and more, or to read the transcript of this podcast and with additional information too, please go to investingforthesoul.com/podcast and scroll down to this episode. Also, be sure to click the like and subscribe buttons in iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you download or listen to this podcast. And please click the share buttons to share this podcast with your friends and family. That way you can help promote not only this podcast, but ethical and sustainable investing globally. So let's help create a better world with our investments. Contact me if you have any questions. Do stay well and healthy, and most wise with your investments at this extraordinary time. Thank you for listening. Talk to you again on April 24th. Bye for now. Learn how to create a simple portfolio reflecting your personal values by taking my 1-hour tutorial. Go to investingforthesoul.com/podcasts and click the link in the right-hand column for my DIY Ethical Sustainable Investing Pays tutorial. Now, I'll mention in the podcast if I have any direct interest or holdings in companies or securities I'm talking about. Furthermore, any news, opinions, analysis, or other information offered by myself, as well as references and information to or from other external sources in this podcast, is provided as general market information and should not be relied upon and thus does not constitute investment advice. Investors should consult their own licensed investment professional before making investments. Also, I will not accept liability for any loss or damage, including without limitation any loss of profit which may arise directly or indirectly from use of or reliance on information in this podcast. Do contact me at ronr@investingforthesoul.com. Signing off, this is Ron Robbins.